Hey guys, Dave here from Nerdarchy. 4 nerds, by nerds, hanging out with the crew.
I'm Ted.
I'm Nate.
And today we got a player's tip.
Woo!
How are we wording this one?
Playing well with others and being excellent to each other.
Yeah, I was going to let Ted say it since he's actually a Ted. It just made more sense.
Well, I'm another monosyllabic person, so it's okay. I'm filling in.
All right, so basically, we're talking about being a good sport at the table, being nice to your fellow players, So how do we wrap it all up? What do we?
Okay, especially for this is a good tip for new players as well as people that've been playing for a while. Because unfortunately, you always have certain people at the table that they kind of want to hog the limelight. They want to be, they want to do more of the role playing, and they're more extroverts. They're more outspoken. So they kind of shut down the quieter people at the table. So there is a thing you just have to be aware and conscious of the other people around you, and make sure you're giving them their turn to play.
Right.
That's one way for you to be. Excellent to the other players at the table. And another thing is, trying to be prepared when your turn is coming up.
Mm-hmm.
If you're thinking about casting a spell, why not look up the spell on the other guy's turn instead of your turn, or
right.
If you don't happen to know it. I mean, or you could cheat. There are the spell cards that you can buy and have them in front of you. They're really an excellent resource that I always forget to bring with me when I'm playing, but they do make it a lot quicker than flipping through a book.
Right.
Or, you could do it on the cheap, and you could just put your spells or what you feel you need from your spells on index cards or something. Right. So there's a couple things right off the top of my head.
So another thing that I've done to kind of have the ready turn is I've done, and I've seen other people do, the pre-rolling. So it's all right, in order to speed up combat, okay, well, I roll my attack, I roll my dice, and, all right, well, I've got a 17, does that hit? Does it hit? Yeah, okay, I do 13 points of damage. It's already done, so when it gets to your turn, you're not starting your rolling right then and there.
That works, but you see our discussion about cheaters at the table.
Yes, there are those who, that go into that realm of
roll
things.
the entire time everyone else is going.
And be it's 20.
Yeah, this is good enough for me.
So you wanna go back to that playing fair and being proper at the table.
Or also known as not being excellent to one another.
Yeah, I've done it where Scott's game, where it was a bunch of us and we were just trying to mow down these monsters. I would, if I'm just going to shoot a flaming blast or something, I'm just going to roll it while it's somebody else's turn and be like, well, they didn't hit. Scott, I didn't hit. And then my turn's over in 5 seconds.
Yeah. Nice.
And this way, you've got the ability to, speed up. I know 5th edition really has a more streamlined combat system, but ultimately it's a role-playing game, so you want to get back to the role-playing. So that's one way to do it.
There's
as long as your DM is cool with the pre-roll.
Oh, and also too, I don't know if this started in 4th edition or what. I know Anthony from Cardboard Fortress does it all the time. He rolls his attack and damage at the same time.
Yes.
So if he hits, there's the damage is already right there. If it doesn't, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Another thing is, basically, some people are better at math than other people, right? So if you're one of those people that aren't that good at math, recognize it and write down your bonuses on your character sheet in a visible spot where you can always look at them, and you don't have to figure it out each time when it's your turn.
Right.
And if you're really bad at finding stuff on a character sheet and bad at math, just take an index card and plop it right down in front of you and say, sword attack, +5.
Well, yeah, and you might need to do that too.
+3,
for all your different attack forms, you might need to put them down because they might be different. Maybe you have a spell attack from a special abilities, which is different than your weapon attacks.
Yeah.
So you just need just things to keep the game moving.
And if you have someone at your table that has this kind of issue, you can help them out to whatever their comfort level is. Don't be standing over them, shouting, it's a 17, it's a 17, it's a 17, because their math already, and you've already seen their die roll. I
don't know anybody that does that.
We've all seen it. So
when you see Ted gaming with you and he's pulling out his hair, and he said a number, he's probably helping you out, sort of.
I try. It's.
He's like, for the love of God, it's 7 plus 5, it's 12.
It's
You
been
got a
plus
12.
5 for the past 7 attacks. Can we just say it's a plus 5?
So, look,
I'm good with numbers.
Some
Other
people
people
are
aren't.
better with some things than other things.
Yes, that's
all.
true. Absolutely. And, combat is only, it could be a very small part of your game if it's done in a decent, efficient manner, if it's not all like 12 people all with that problem. But anyway, back to...
Well, we've also gamed with people that could be, quasi-qualified as special needs.
Right.
And they do
Yeah, that's
require
true.
a little more... A little more assistance or a little more time, and there's being respectful of that too.
Absolutely.
Everybody's at the level that they're at, and
that's okay.
and we like to try and welcome everybody into this hobby. It goes back to Dave's rule number 1: don't be a dick.
Yeah, that's true.
And try and work with people within their means.
So another way to be excellent towards your fellow player is if you're a player and there's someone at the table who is kind of floundering with role playing, doesn't really do a lot, feel free to engage character to character to slowly try to bring them out of that shell, try to get them to be more active in the game. Hopefully your GM is doing it as well, but if you're all working together, you're going to build not only the relationship from player to player, but character to character.
Well, and not only that, even just aside from the character aspect of it, you're going to build the confidence of that player.
Yes.
And it's going to encourage them to do more. Obviously, we've seen people. I've had people comment that we did a video about engaging the players more, and as an introvert, they're like, oh my God, they're kind of horrified that
They're running off into the corner and shivering, thinking about what we're doing.
They're like,
in the video.
you can't just put them on the spot. I'm like, no, you don't put people on the spot. You have a conversation. It's very conversational. It's not like. Yeah. And
it's not interrogation. It's a conversation.
Yeah, you talk to him. Hey, Bob, what's Lothar of the Hill People going to do? He's standing in front of a locked door. Is he going to bust? And then he'll either say, I can't open it. Where's Hammer Toes the rogue? At or whatever.
Are these all dwarven rogues and dwarven?
Yes,
they're all dwarves.
They're all dwarves.
Master race.
But no. So you can take that same thing. And you can turn it around and do it with the other players as well, player to player, and in a very conversational way that doesn't put them under pressure and doesn't make them want to scurry and hide under the table. I mean, if it's that bad that they can't just have a conversation with another person, the chances are they're probably not going to be at your table.
Right.
Yeah, I can't imagine someone being what is it? What is the word for
agoraphobia?
Yeah,
agoraphobic.
Yeah, if you're that frightened of people, I don't see you sitting at a gaming table.
Right.
Although we did have one person that said that they've recently started gaming online as a way to kind of deal with that, which is awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great.
So you could just talk player to player with each other and help build the role player playing in your game to their comfort level. And you have to be kind of observant. If you feel if they start looking kind of squirrely and sweating around the collar or something, well, you might need to back off or whatever. Or maybe it'll be the opposite, which I've seen. I've seen people who are generally really quiet at the table, when you engage them directly and start making it about them and their character a little bit more, they start to open up and blossom as role players.
Right.
To their level. I've always, in our previous campaigns, given bonus XP for role playing, and I've always graded on a curve.
Right.
Someone who is an awesome role player and needs no encouragement, they're going to get very little XP for it.
A tick mark.
Yeah, compared to somebody who, basically sits there and just rolls dice, when they do something, yeah, you're gonna, I want to encourage them to keep doing it. Mm-hmm. You generally don't have to tell the actor wannabes, you generally don't have to encourage them very much. They're going to keep going no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody, at your table, comes to the table for one reason or another. And you need to figure that out. If this guy's he's here for just the socialization and needs help on the role playing side of things. This
or
guy's
the roles,
or yeah, absolutely. This guy's here for he wants to roll dice and kill shit. This person wants the limelight, wants to role play. You've got to be a part of this menagerie of people who are, as I said, possibly coming to the table for different reasons. So you want to respect all these boundaries. You want to be a part of it and have fun and let everyone else have the same.
Well,
for the love of God, Ted, I want to say something. Say it. That wraps into managing your own expectations, and I think that's kind of like a life lesson as well as like at the table. If you rocks are going to roll down a hill, birds want to fly. If they do something else, then that's something to get excited over and celebrate in some way. Like when the when the guy that just rolls dice actually role plays and starts coming out of his shell. But you gotta, don't expect them to do what you want them to do and what you think a role player or somebody has to do to be at the table with you, because then you're
not being excellent to them when you do that.
Yeah, because you're basically imposing what you think is proper on everybody else, and that's kind of jerkish, and it's unrealistic because no one's the same as you,
right? And
then no one's going to have the same expectations for the game. Like the exact same expectations. So
very valid point.
Yeah. So if you come to the table with that thought process of the opposite of that,
the right way to game.
Yeah, there's the right way to game, and then there's my way, which is the right way to game, and then everybody else's way. And there's always something wrong with everybody else's way of gaming. If you go to the table with that mindset, you're going to get aggravated, probably more than you're going to enjoy the game. So
it's very true. There's one other thing I want to bring up that we've always done as players, and it's not even on a conscious level. You end up with that new player at the table that doesn't really know the rules or how things work. Eventually this is going to happen if you play for any
length of time.
Any certain period of time. And what we've always done, it's never been like something that a said thing. Ted usually is the guy anyway. But we use this buddy system where we just pair up the new player with somebody.
Right.
We sit them next to someone who knows all the rules, knows the game, and is just helpful and helps point out options, helps discuss what they can do in combat or role playing or anything in the game, and just basically helps them out. That right there is being most excellent to the new guy. And it also helps the rest of the table, too, because, you don't have one person that's bogging everything down just because they don't know yet. Mm-hmm. And it increases their learning curve.
Exactly. And you want someone who's going to be comfortable in that position, talking to a new player that's also going to be able to whisper and be quiet off to the side so that, the DM can be talking to whoever's current turn it is while you're, going through the motions of, okay, well, on your turn, well, you can attack and this is how it works, or you can cast a spell and these are your options.
Or here's the die to roll.
This is the correct die to roll. I mean,
it takes the pressure off the new person from having to know the rules as expediently as we all do.
Yeah, they can focus on just playing the game and having fun and not knowing the rules because they have a helper brain.
Right.
So, otherwise they're just floundering, and that's not fun for anybody.
Correct.
So, I don't know, as a primer, off the top of my head, that's kind of the things that I can think of that, to help players be courteous to each other and keep things moving smoothly. But what do you guys think? What are your pro tips for players, to each other at the game table? Let us know in the comments below while you're at it. Like, share, and subscribe.
You can patronize us in a good way by checking out our Patreon account.
You can check out the articles over on nerdarchy.com.
So until next time, stay nerdy.